We have another race for the North Carolina Supreme Court, this one to replace Democrat Sam Ervin. In the Republican primary for this race, we have Trey Allen, who clerked for Chief Justice Paul Newby, running against Court of Appeals Judge April Wood. April Wood will be here. She advised me that she'd be here at about 12:45. But first, right now, I'd like you to hear from Trey Allen and what he will bring to the North Carolina Supreme Court. Trey.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Trey Allen, and I am running to replace liberal activist Justice Sam Ervin and give our state Supreme Court a majority of justices who will follow the Constitution and our laws. A little bit about me. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm an Iraq War veteran. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Supreme Court candidate running who set the headspace and timing on a .50 caliber. Or thrown a live grenade, but don't ask me to do it again. You know. I grew up in rural Robeson County. We had guns all over the place. Don't tell DSS, but I had easy access to guns throughout my childhood. Never shot anybody, and was never shot by anybody. I married my wife, or I met my wife in high school. We've got 5 children. They all get their first gun at age 5. Now, it is a Red Ryder BB gun, but we start them then, and when they're 15, they get their shotguns. So I just had another one turn 15 last year, and he got his first shotgun for Christmas. As I said, I grew up in rural Robeson County. Guns were part of life. Anybody a fan of Justice Scalia? Remember Justice Scalia? He used to tell this story about how when he was a high school student, he went to a military school. And he carried a rifle, a working rifle, with him on the subway in New York, on the subway in New York, to and from school. And nobody thought anything about it. Why? Because it's not weapons, it's morality. It's not weapons that present the danger, it's culture, okay? So I'm running for the North Carolina Supreme Court, as I said, to give the court a majority of conservative constitutionalists. What I do now is I serve you as the general counsel, that is the top lawyer for our state's entire court system. So I run the office of lawyers in Raleigh that trial court judges and clerks of court and magistrates call when they have legal questions. I was appointed to this current role by our Chief Justice Paul Newby. As you heard Paul say, some 17 years ago, I clerked for him when he was brand new to the court, so I've known him a long time, and I'm honored to work with him in this role. I'm also honored to be able to tell you that he asked me to run for the Supreme Court. So it's a real privilege for me to be able to go out and tell people that Paul Newby, who, if you don't know, he is the conservative gold standard for judges in our state. It's a real honor for me to be able to say that he wants me on the court with him. My wife and I, as I said, have 5 children. That's why, although I'm 47, I feel like I'm 87. We homeschool them. Or to be more precise, my wife homeschools them because we want them to grow up and share our faith in God, our Christian faith, and our love for this great country. So that's a little bit about my background, but I think the most important thing you need to know about any judicial candidate is what that candidate stands for. Because it's a candidate's principles, it's a judge's principles that are going to determine whether he or she gets the rulings right in the big cases. So I believe the Constitution means what it meant when it was ratified, that no court and no judge has the power to change that. That's called originalism. That was the judicial philosophy of Justice Scalia. And we've seen just how important that is in the Second Amendment context over the last few years. You probably all are familiar with the Heller case. That's the case, where Justice Scalia wrote the opinion recognizing that the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment, is an individual right. Just last year, our federal appellate court, the Fourth Circuit in Hirschfeld, issued a ruling that struck down a federal law that prohibited adults under the age of 21 from buying firearms from licensed gun dealers. Now, how did the federal court reach that conclusion? It was a split decision, but the two judges in the majority were originalists. So they looked at the history of the Second Amendment, and they noted that at the time the Second Amendment was ratified, every state in the nation required 18-year-olds to be available for service in the militia and to bring their own firearms. And so based on that history, the judges said the Second Amendment guarantees the right of 18-year-olds to keep and bear arms, and Congress cannot unlawfully infringe upon that. So that's just one example, one recent example of how judicial philosophy makes a real difference. How much more time do I have, Paul? Okay, I want to tell you a quick story that also illustrates this point. In 1992, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that even generic prayer in public high school, at public high school graduations, violates the First Amendment. The First Amendment's restriction on establishing a state religion. The ruling was 5-4. Justice Scalia wrote a dissent. In that dissent, he looked at the history of prayer in America's public life going all the way back to George Washington's first inaugural. And based on that history, he said our founders did not intend for the First Amendment to banish prayer from America's civic life. So he said the majority was wrong. Anybody remember who nominated Justice Scalia to the U.S. Supreme Court? Ronald Reagan. All right, anybody want to guess who wrote the majority decision banning prayer at public high school graduations? Usually the guess is Ginsburg, and she would have voted that way, but she wasn't on the court yet. It was Anthony Kennedy. Anthony Kennedy, who wrote many horrible decisions, by the way. Now, here's the $64,000 question. Who nominated Justice Kennedy to the Supreme Court? Ronald Reagan, that's right. Why do I tell that story, friends? Because it's not enough just to select Republicans. It's not enough just to put someone with an R beside his or her name on the court. If we don't elect originalists, if we don't elect judges with the right judicial philosophy, they will get the decisions wrong in the cases that we care about the most. Now, I want to address an ugly rumor that's been going around about me. It's being said that I've been a professor at Chapel Hill. It's true. It's true. Friends, you're looking at someone who has been a tenured conservative professor at Chapel Hill. That means two things. It might mean more than two, but number one, I know the law. Number two, I know what it's like to be a conservative where it's not easy to be a conservative. The values that I've told you about today, I'll take with me to the North Carolina Supreme Court. I'll uphold the Constitution. I'll uphold our laws. I ask for your support. My name's Trey Allen. My website's treyallennc.com. And if you don't remember anything else I say, please remember this. Don't go astray. Vote for Trey. Thank you very much.